All right.
All right. So, hey, we're here together. Jason and I are here together at a conference in Little Rock, Arkansas. And since we've known each other for a long time, we're just going to have a little chance to talk about the most important things that we can talk about. So go ahead.
Okay, so I've got some questions for you here. You've written 3 books now.
Yeah.
Has there been an overall plan, or has this just been kind of addressing needs as you see them come up?
Yeah, so when we first started, we did have a plan for 3 books. Okay. One that makes the case for making the case, one that makes the case for Christianity, one that makes the case for God's existence. And we weren't sure really the order. So I presented all 3 books at the same time. And we just decided, the publisher decided that it was best to go. And I think my agent and I decided, hey, maybe the best one is Cold Case first, Cold Case Christianity. And then we did God's Crime Scene next. And then I realized, as I was traveling around the country, you know this too, you see it all the time, we have to convince Christians, the church, that this is important, that we ought to be able to make the case for what we believe. So I ended up writing Forensic Faith, really. When I first started, I think we called it the detective way. But we were really trying to say, hey, could you live your life as a Christian? Could you examine Christianity from an evidential perspective? So yeah, we had a plan originally, and now we have another plan of another trilogy of books, which we're working on right now. So
okay,
yeah, we always have a plan though. Like, what are the needs we see? But you probably can't answer all those needs in one book. So
okay. You started out podcasting and blogging.
Yep.
I remember the old Please Convince Me
That's right.
Podcast.
That's right.
Was that helpful in preparing for the writing of the book?
Yeah, I always tell people to start. I mean, you've done a great job of producing now hundreds of articles, and you're just doing it one opportunity a week. And all of us could probably do that. If you're a believer and you think you can make a case to somebody, there's somebody out there who needs to hear it from your perspective. So it does teach you. As a matter of fact, it was that foundation of just a little bit of an audience that we developed with Please Convince Me that ended up becoming the foundation for writing books. Because they're going to ask you 2 questions when you get ready to write a book. They're going to say, what's your idea for a book? And who are you? And it turns out the only question that really seems to matter is the who are you question. So we want to be able to start building that audience. So start now. Don't wait. Start writing.
Okay. Can you give us a little preview of your newest book that's coming out
Okay,
this year,
so
correct?
we wrote a book. I wrote a book with Sean McDowell, and it's coming out in May 1st. And it's basically not a what book. It's not a what is true book. It's not about the evidence for Scripture or the evidence for God's existence. It's a how do I teach this stuff to my kids. If I care about kids, I'm a teacher, I'm a parent, I'm a Christian educator, I'm a pastor, how do I share this truth? What's the methodology? So it's really not a book that's a what is true book. It's a book, how do I teach the truth? So it's very practical. So it kind of takes all, if you know what's true, having read a bunch of apologetics books or theology books, whatever, the question still is, how do I share that with young people? And that's what we're doing in this book.
Okay,
it's called So the Next Generation Will Know.
Okay.
Yep.
You've been case making for several years now. So what is something you've learned in that process for upcoming case makers?
Okay, well, I can tell you this. One thing you learn is how to make a visual case, and this is so important. In the end, at some point, your case is going to have to be made in front of a jury. And when that happens, you're going to have to make it visual. So one thing you can start thinking about is, well, if I had to diagram this, how would I diagram it? And that has really marked our books as slightly different than other books, right? That we try to make the case in a visual way in each book.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then lastly, Forensic Faith made the case for making the case.
Yep.
So do you have one point for people just starting out that have no background in this? This is kind of giving them a interest in it, but they don't really know where to start. Is there, other than buying your book to get the whole story?
Yeah, that's not
one
what
point to start.
Yeah, I'm not going to suggest that necessarily. What I'm going to say instead is, there's something you're already interested in, something that you think, hey, you know what? I have a. For me, it was the moral law, right? I was working in law enforcement. I may not be able to master the cosmological evidence, but I could master the axiological argument, the argument from morality, because that was one thing I was kind of interested in. A lot of my personal stories could be used to illustrate that point. Whoever you are listening to this, there's some narrow area that you're interested in that you could probably expand. And you start there. You just start with those things that are the most interesting to you, and then you develop out from there. You don't have to master everything the first time. It'd be too overwhelming. Just take the one narrow thing you're interested in and become the expert in that one narrow thing, and then you add to that.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yes.
And by the way, make sure you follow. Let's just talk about your website first. Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
So you've been blogging for how long now?
4 years now.
4 years. And where's all of your stuff located?
At welldesignedfaith.net.
Yes. Now, I always retweet all your work. this is one of the people we're talking about, is that how do you jump in and become a case maker? Well, you got a great example of that. So make sure you visit these websites. Visit welldesignedfaith. That's net, right?
.net.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So it's net. So we want to make sure it's welldesignedfaith.net. And that's where you're going to get all this stuff. And it's a great example of how you can step in the game and become a useful tool in the hand of God. Yeah, thanks, sir. All right, see you later.
Thank you.
Bye.